Hello, my name is Andrew Mallet, and I am the Archives Assistant at Bunker Hill Community College. And today, I will be presenting on the issues women students of Bunker Hill Community College advocated for through voicing their opinions in the Third Rail newspaper, which ran from 1973 to 2001. Throughout this presentation, I want to provide insight into the uniqueness and universality of Bunker Hill Community College women student experiences. I further want to establish a historical overview of the issues they deem significant and facilitate discussion of our institution's history. The first issue I will be tackling is the draft, in which from the 1960s to the 1980s there was a contentious discussion around if women should be drafted in the time of war. From the beginning of the Vietnam War to the early 90s, the draft was one of the most controversial issues in the United States. As elucidated in the following articles, which I will objectively analyze, one of the most pertinent questions on Americans' minds is if women should serve in combat. If they are able to, should they be drafted as well to meet the needs of the U.S. military in the time of war? Now I will delve into an article written by Elisa Nazzaro that was published on February 19, 1980, in which she argued that women should be drafted. Ms. Nazzaro makes the following points to support her argument for drafting women in the time of war. It would fit the parameters of feminism. For the sake of equal rights, women should have the same responsibilities and duties as men. To bar women from combat is sexist, for if we want women to have total equality of men, they should be able to serve their country. Equal rights is the most important reason for why women should be drafted, for women should have the right to serve their country and as equal as a capacity as men. Women are just as physically and mentally capable as men, and therefore can endure the trials and tribulations of war, and the only reason why men are thought to be physically and mentally superior is that women are coddled and restricted into the sphere of domesticity. Essentially, Ms. Nazzaro's points revolve around equal rights, arguing that allowing women to serve in combat and to be drafted in the time of war puts them on the same footing as men. Ms. Nazzaro ultimately wants to see women expand beyond domesticity and their capacity to serve the United States. Now here is a second article by former BHCC students Midge Van Patten and Helen Clancy, also published on February 19, 1980, that elucidates the perspectives of 5 women on the issue of drafting in the time of war. Of the 5 women interviewed from this article, 1 was for drafting women, while the other 4 were against it. Now here are some quotes from the women that are representative of their views of the draft. Women should be allowed to volunteer. Drafting disrupts the family unit. Women are not capable of handling the pressure involved in war. I think there's enough men who can do the fighting. However, I'm not for men being drafted either. The main reasons that we see here that the majority of these women argued against the draft is that it puts women in too much danger, disrupts the family unit / harmony of society, and that women cannot handle the pressure of war while men can. In these next 2 articles, I will illuminate the perspectives of international students of Bunker Hill Community College from the 1980s to 1990s with their struggles of adapting to American society. I will now delve into former Bunker Hill Community College columnist Kate Bartholomew's articles ESL Students, Struggling Survivors, which was published on October 11, 1983. In this article, Ms. Bartholomew delved into the various barriers to education that ESL students face in the United States, utilizing a mixture of statistical analysis and anecdotal observation. The majority of ESL students at this time were Vietnamese and Indo-Chinese. The influx of students from Southeast Asia from the 1970s to the 1980s to the United States was mainly due to the devastation of the wars in Southeast Asia during this era. Ms. Bartholomew lamented that many ESL learners were smuggled out of war zones in oppressive countries, facing torture, mutilation, and sexual violence by their smugglers. Of the masses of Indo-Chinese refugees, 560,000 of them were under 25 years of age, and 18% of this population were college age. Due to the factors of xenophobia, racism, and undereducation Western learning, only 15% of the college-age Indo-Chinese refugees who applied to college were admitted. Now finally, I will delve into the perspective of former international student Rudolph Miparganda, who came from Harare, Zimbabwe, and chose Bunkyo Community College for its affordability and as a gateway to her higher education and career aspirations. In her interview with columnist Sandra Giannato that was published in the Third Rail newspaper on April 9, 1990, Ms. Miparganda delved into the similarities and differences she saw between Zimbabwean and American culture. Rudolph Miparganda lamented what she perceived as a general apathy among Americans. She states that America has a very individualistic society compared to the collectivist/familiar society of Zimbabwe. She further made the following points about Zimbabwean culture. Unlike in the U.S., Zimbabwean children stay at home until they marry. Zimbabwe also had a rigorous British school-based system, which she found much more vigorous than the American school system. Filial piety is a foundational value in Zimbabwe. Well, Ms. Miparganda found that elders were not treated with respect in the United States, and she argued that Zimbabwe was ultimately much safer than the United States, with no drug or gun problems. Overall, this and other articles from the Third Rail illustrate the insights into the perspectives of women students who attended Bunkyo Community College. Many women who attended had to overcome the barriers of racism, sexism, genderism, and classism in order to succeed in pursuing their educations and careers. As an archives assistant, I hope I have proliferated awareness of these views and furthered a deeper insight into the Bunkyo Community College experience through the eyes of women students. Thank you for listening, and these are my sources.